In the cold spring of 1922, deep in the Bavarian countryside of Germany, stood a small, isolated farmstead called Hinterkaifeck. Surrounded by thick woods and fields, the farmhouse sat miles away from the nearest village, the kind of place where nights were pitch black and silence could make your heart race. But on one quiet night in late March, that silence was shattered. Inside lived 6 people: Andreas Gruber, the stern 63-year-old farmer, his wife Kizelia, 72, their widowed daughter Victoria, 35, Victoria's 2 children, Kizelia, aged 7, and Joseph, barely 2, and their maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had only arrived at the farm a few hours before she died. None of them knew that something, or someone, was already watching them. Just a few days before the tragedy, Andreas Gruber noticed something strange. Deep footprints appeared in the snow, leading from the forest to his house, but not a single track leading back. He searched the property but found nothing. Doors unlocked, footsteps in the attic, a missing set of keys, and yet no one was there. He told his neighbors what he'd seen, but they laughed it off, saying Andreas was too old, too suspicious. But Gruber was right. Someone had already entered the house and was living quietly inside. It was a Friday night when it happened. The family had finished dinner. The young maid, Maria, was unpacking her things in her new room, her first night at Hinterkaifeck. At some point after dusk, the killer struck. One by one, each member of the family was lured into the barn, perhaps by a strange noise or the barking of their dog. The first to go was Andreas, a single crushing blow to the head from a pickaxe-like weapon called a mattock. Then Kizelia Sr., found beside him, skull fractured. Victoria, too, died trying to flee. Finally, little Kizelia, 7 years old, whose tiny hands showed that she had pulled her hair out in terror before dying. The killer didn't stop there. Inside the house, baby Joseph was bludgeoned in his cot. The maid, Maria, struck in her bed, the last to die. The entire Gruber family wiped out. No one in the nearby village heard a scream, no gunfire, only the wind through the trees. What happened next is the most chilling part of all. For 4 entire days, no one came to check on the family. The postman noticed the mail piling up. The children missed school. The milk delivery sat untouched. Yet neighbors later claimed they saw smoke rising from the chimney. Someone was cooking food in the kitchen. The cattle had been fed, the dog was alive, the farm chores were being done. Someone was still inside the house, calmly living among the dead. On April 4th, worried neighbors finally came to investigate. They entered the barn and found the horror inside. Andreas, Kizelia, Victoria, and little Kizelia were stacked on top of each other beneath straw, their bodies stiff, mutilated. Inside the house, the maid and baby Joseph were found as well, brutally beaten. The villagers ran screaming from the scene. The police arrived hours later and were speechless. Nothing had been stolen, the money, gold, jewelry, untouched. There were half-eaten meals on the table, suggesting the killer stayed there for days afterwards. Even the family dog was alive, though it had been beaten. The Munich police launched one of the most extensive investigations in German history. They interviewed more than 100 people, but every clue only deepened the mystery. The weapon, the mattock, belonged to Andreas. It was found hidden in the attic months later. The attic, yes, the same attic where Andreas heard footsteps before the murders. Police found signs someone had lived there recently: straw bedding, crumbs, human waste. The killer had been hiding above them, watching, waiting, listening to every sound of their lives. Theories spread through the village like wildfire. Some blamed wandering soldiers. Germany was still reeling from World War I. Others said it was a local man, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, who had once been romantically involved with Victoria and claimed he might be the father of little Joseph. When Lawrence helped discover the bodies, villagers noticed something odd. He unlocked the farm gate with a key, though Andreas had reported his key missing before the murders. He also appeared disturbingly calm, moving the bodies and feeding the animals before police arrived. He sometimes believed he returned to the farm in the days after the murders, perhaps the reason the chimney still smoked. But there was no proof, no witnesses, no confession. The police couldn't charge him, or anyone. To this day, the questions remain. Who left those footprints in the snow? Who lived in the attic, watching the family below? Why did the killer stay after the murders, feeding livestock, cooking meals, keeping up the illusion that life continued? Was it madness, obsession, or something darker, a desire to erase not just lives, but identities? Over the decades, police reopened the case several times, 1923, 1925, 1951, even 1996, each time hoping new technology might reveal the truth. But every lead turned to dust. During World War II, the victims' skulls were sent to Munich for forensic study, hoping to find the weapons marks. Tragically, the skulls were lost during Allied bombings. The farmhouse itself was demolished in 1923, but locals whispered that its ruins were cursed. Farmers who came near reported hearing footsteps and voices from the woods. Today, nothing remains of Hinterkaifeck but a small memorial stone. The forest has reclaimed the land, covering the past with moss and silence. Yet the legend remains alive, whispered by locals, studied by detectives, retold by historians. The case stands as one of Europe's most horrifying unsolved crimes, a story of fear, isolation, and evil that walked quietly in the dark. Maybe the killer was someone they knew. Maybe he walked among them every day, blending into village life. Or maybe he vanished into the forest that night, footsteps fading in the snow, leaving behind only mystery. What we know is this: 6 innocent people were murdered, their lives extinguished in a place where no one could hear them scream. The killer fed their animals, slept under their roof, and then disappeared without a trace. More than a century later, the silence of Hinterkaifeck still speaks, and if you listen closely, the wind that moves through those Bavarian woods still carries a question no one can answer. Who killed the Gruber family? What do you think happened on that lonely farm? Was it jealousy, revenge, or something supernatural? Let me know your theory in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because more true crimes and mysteries are waiting in the dark.